Ladies and gentlemen, the Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri event is known as the greatest Dragon Ball event in years. Everybody is excited, so today we're going to be going over a ton of leaks, a ton of rumors, and we'll be going over a lot of speculation that people have out there. I'll be giving my own wish list for what I want to see from the event as well. And this basically is going to be your Genkidamatsuri rundown. We're just several days away, so I figured, why not now? There is no time like the present. We're just several days away. So if you've never heard of this event, or if this is your 50th time hearing about it, this is the video for you. We're going to be breaking down everything we know, and if you don't want any spoilers, don't worry, I will be leaving timestamps in the video, so I will also be giving a verbal spoiler warning. So if you do not want any spoilers or leaks about what the event will reveal, no worries. So if you watch up to that point, the only thing I will be discussing is my wish list and things we officially know. So let's just go and get into the video, basically, the Genkidamatsuri breakdown. So it will be streaming on YouTube on the Toei Animation channel. So of course, if you are a little wise, if you're a little street smart, and you are able to do some deductive reasoning, if Toei Animation is streaming it, that's probably an announcement for some sort of animation project. That's not a leak. That's just deductive reasoning. So it will be around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then for JST, it says it's starting at 10 to 18 hours. So there you go. You can go ahead and do the calculations yourself for whatever time zone you're in. Like I said, it will be streaming on the official Toei Animation YouTube channel in English and Japanese. Now let's break down these panels because it had a lot of people very confused. So the first panel is about 45 minutes, and it will feature the voice talents of Masako Nozawa and the executive producer of Dragon Ball, Akio Ioku. Now the interesting thing is that after this 45-minute panel that is an exclusive announcement, we get a 30-minute video game panel. Now this is where we're going to be getting a brand new Dragon Ball game officially announced. We already know this. That is not a leak. That is not rumor. That is not speculation. It is outright confirmed. We'll be getting a new game. We have no idea what type of game it will be, but it is going to be a new game. Now the other interesting thing is that Jun Furutarni is going to be on this panel, so this is very likely where we are going to see the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero DLC that just got a trailer not too long ago. Then after that, we're getting a 30-minute panel that says Exclusive Announcements Genki Da Stage Part 2. This is going to feature Masako Nozawa and Ioku once more, and it also says and more. So there was a lot of confusion about whether this is going to be two projects separately or one project spread across two panels with a brand new video game panel breaking up the flow. That would be an interesting tactic, and I've gone over this in a couple news videos. The point that basically everybody is kind of coming to is that it could either be two projects or one project split into basically two panels, because it does say and more on the second panel. So maybe they spend 45 minutes talking about the future of Dragon Ball and things like that, and then on the second panel they go more in depth into this new project, whatever it may be. So we know there's going to be a new Dragon Ball video game, but as far as these two panels, we don't know much. Then we have a 45-minute panel going over Dokkan Battle, Legends, and Genshin Squadra. Then for you Japanese players, we have a Super Diver stage, and then Fusion World, which I believe is not Japan exclusive. Then we have the weekly Dragon Ball News On-Site Edition, which is a Shueisha production. It will have Victory Uchida and Victory Asada. Some people were speculating we could be getting some Dragon Ball Super news here for the manga, but nothing confirmed. It is a Shueisha production though, so that is, I think, worth at least talking about. And then the final live stage, which is going to be basically a concert from Kageyama. So, that's all of the panels and everything that I can basically tell you is for sure confirmed. So before we get into the leaks, I thought it would be fun if I go over my wish list for what I would like to see from this event, because I've basically been making a bunch of news videos and reporting on leaks and rumors and everything like that, but I realized I have not yet made a wish list of things I want to see. So in order to be as pure as possible to not mention any leaks, I'm not aiming for realism with this list. This list is going to be purely wish fulfillment. So the first big project that I would love to see announced is a remake of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. That's right, I'm including Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Z. I would love to see a remake of Dragon Ball in its entirety with much better pacing and modern animation. A lot of people say this isn't necessary because Dragon Ball Z is perfect how it is. I'm here to tell you the harsh truth that it is not. Dragon Ball Z has horrible pacing. I absolutely hate the pacing of Dragon Ball Z. I love Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I think they're amazing. It's my favorite thing ever. But the pacing in the Dragon Ball Z anime is horrid. That's why it's much easier to just watch Dragon Ball Z Kai if you're a new viewer. And I think it could really benefit from a brand new anime that actually has the pacing of the manga, because the manga does not flow like the anime. There are panels where characters stare each other down, but it's not like the whole chapter is them staring each other down. It's amazingly paced, fast action. It's just absolutely amazing. And I feel like the Dragon Ball Z anime, it captures that essence sometimes, but the filler and all the slowing down really hurts it. So I would love to see a Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z remake, preferably in the style of Dragon Ball Daima like I'm showing here. That would be amazing. The next thing I want to see is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. I think we are in for a Dragon Ball Xenoverse sequel. I would love to see it. I think it's high time. I don't know how many of you have come here from my Dragon Ball Online playthrough days. I kind of put that on the back burner. I basically have that series on hiatus just because my Dragon Ball news and speculation videos kind of took over the channel, you could say. But I'm still very much a big fan of the Dragon Ball Online universe, or the Dragon Ball Xenoverse universe, or the Dragon Ball Heroes universe. Basically, the Time Patrol lore in general. I think there's a lot to do there. And with Dragon Ball Daima basically revamping the Demon Realm, I think now would be a great time to do Xenoverse 3 and basically explore the Demon Realm, but not as we've seen it in the Dragon Ball Heroes game, or even Dragon Ball Online, although I don't think you go into the Demon Realm in Dragon Ball Online. I could be mistaken. But the point is, there's a ton of lore that has basically been changed if it was ever considered canon to begin with. That's a whole other discussion. But the point is that now that Dragon Ball Daima exists, there's fertile storytelling grounds to explore, because the Demon Realm is talked about in the first two Xenoverse games. So you could do more of a large-scale kind of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot-esque world with the Xenoverse 3 and basically meld the gameplay, not necessarily like the keyboard gameplay of Dragon Ball Online, but there would be like a perfect fusion in my head if you could fuse Dragon Ball Z Kakarot with Dragon Ball Online and Dragon Ball Xenoverse. You can make a very compelling Xenoverse 3. So that is something I would love to see, is something like that. The next project I would like to see for the third panel, and yes, it's kind of insane, but I would love to see the Dragon Ball Super anime return with the Moro arc. So a little credit here. This is composited by Tora Berra, and the artwork is by Tora Berra, so there you go. There's your credits. This is the Moro artwork that he has done. It looks absolutely amazing. I know, the Dragon Ball Super anime has been on hiatus for years, but I would love to see it come back. I think it is past time we have the Dragon Ball Super anime return. I would honestly love to see it. Last thing I want to put on my wish list is an announcement for Dragon Ball Super's manga to return. I think it's high time. Now, if you're wondering where this is from, this is not like some sort of teaser for another arc or anything like that. This is just from the V-Jump magazine that was advertising some new Gohan Beast and Goku UI figures from, Bandai basically. But the cool thing is that it looks amazing. And I saw this and I was like, is this a hint at the future? But it's really not. It's just like a nice little artwork. And a lot of people are complaining about how Toyotaro was drawing Gohan's lips here. I really don't care. I think once he actually draws the manga, he won't be shading them like this, and it'll look fine. But I guess my point is that just give us the Dragon Ball Super manga. Quit playing with us. Quit jerking us around. It is past time we get some Dragon Ball Super manga. Alright, so that's my wish list for Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri. Let me know if you think I'm being insane with my requests. Now, if you want the leaks, stick around, but if you don't want any spoilers about the event, click off the video now. Alright, so if you have been living under a rock, you may not know about this, but if you've been keeping up with my channel, you probably know we are getting most likely a Dragon Ball Super remake. That is the most popular rumor going around based off a leak that is legitimate, that is depicting the events of Dragon Ball Super. So, I've been trying to avoid mentioning what the leak depicts exactly, but because I've seen so many other channels talking about what the leak explicitly depicts, I think at this point, I'm kind of very honestly, and again, I kind of wanted to not mention this, but it's so out there, everybody's talking about it, all the big YouTubers are talking about it. I think I'm fine in saying that it does depict the events of Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. So this artwork is coming from Torabera again. Amazing art. This is kind of in the style of Dragon Ball Daima, but from what I'm understanding, the most prominent information out there says that if this Dragon Ball Super remake does end up being real, it probably will not look like Dragon Ball Daima. It'll probably just be a more consistent, visually stunning anime with Yamamuro at the head. So this is basically from the Tournament of Power. I would love to see something like this. It would look absolutely amazing. But I just grabbed this image to show you like the peak of what we could have if they do indeed decide to go in a different direction from Yamamuro with this Dragon Ball Super remake. So I know I was kind of cheating in my wish list by putting a Dragon Ball remake of just Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But again, that's my wish list. That's my pie in the sky wish. I would prefer to see a remake of OG and DBZ over Dragon Ball Super. Some people actually want to see this. If this actually does get announced, I would be fine with it. Next thing, I went ahead and screenshot this on X, is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 actually did kind of get a sort of leak. So the only reason why I decided to mention this was how clairvoyant this ended up being. So this was leaked October 16th, 2025. This was right before the Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri event was announced. It was right before the official Dragon Ball Super 2015 Twitter account changed their name to Dragon Ball Anime Info. It was like right before everything kicked off and everything switched into high gear. And then it was also right before they officially announced that they'll be revealing a new Dragon Ball game. Now, I know I said that I would not be giving any leaks or anything in my wish list, but the amazing thing is, if you did not watch to this part of the video, you would not know that this was leaked or rumored because I did not mention that at all in my wish list. And honestly, if this was not leaked, I would still want to see it, so I felt pretty fair putting it there. So, with all that said, let's go over the information as Clifford puts it. Info on Xenoverse 3 I got from a reliable source in Japan and that I can now share. And again, I would not be posting about this unless the timing, basically what I'm trying to say is, it just came out like right whenever everything was popping off, so it kind of seemed a little suspicious, and honestly, I think it's worth reporting on. Now, I've kind of made this comparison before, but there are several leakers in the Dragon Ball community. Some of them are less reliable than others, but you kind of have to take it as you get it, and then if things turn out wrong, you can kind of strike that against them on their record, and after a certain point, if it looks like BS, then it is BS. But again, I wanted to give this person a shot in proving themselves because the timing was just so weird. So they say, well in development, numerous delays and some aspects have been completely redone from scratch. Graphically very beautiful, a playable version already exists, release 2027 or 2028. Now, the fact that they may know the release isn't too crazy, and honestly, if this is coming in 2027, it would make sense to announce it at Genkidamatsuri. But with that being said, the likelihood of this being legitimate is a little bit up in the air. Again, I would consider this a leak because it's coming from a single source and they are saying they have information and they're kind of putting it out there. Similar thing with Marvel. Marvel leakers, there's like one guy or one woman and they leak some information and then it turns out true, or sometimes it turns out untrue. So that's the tricky thing with leaks. Sometimes a leak can be literally a picture of a trailer, or sometimes it can be information. And again, things also change in development. So you kind of got to take leaks with a critical eye. You don't want to trust everything, but you also don't want to dismiss everything, because like I said, in this situation, it's kind of crazy how the coincidences line up. So that's another thing to take into account. Could we be seeing Xenoverse 3? Possibly, possibly not. That's something that we will have to wait and see on. Next thing, Sophia and Legeek claims new movie will be CGI. So in case you guys have also been living under a rock again, for a long time there's been a rumor of a new Dragon Ball movie, and it seems like it's basically guaranteed, because from what I'm understanding, the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie did well, and the Dragon Ball Super Superhero movie did well. So if something does well, what do? They do more of it. So while there is no confirmation of a new movie, it seems like the consensus is that if they did not do a new movie, it would be surprising. So Sophia and Legeek is the individual who has been leaking information about the Dragon Ball Super anime remake, and he's one of the most prominent people who have been leaking information about it. So again, if the Dragon Ball Super remake ends up being real, this will be another thing to add to his record of things that are legit. Because like I said, I've kind of tried to do a background check into him to see if he was full of BS, but I haven't really been able to find anything that says he was really a big leaker in the past. And also, kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, we'll see if this ends up being true, but if none of this that he's talked about is announced at the Genkidamatsuri event, again, that would be unfortunate and definitely kind of an indication that you probably can't trust him. But if we do get an announcement of a movie that is CGI or the Dragon Ball Super anime remake, that would be pretty substantial. So this animation of like the CGI movie, basically he talked about it at the end of a longer video where he went over the Dragon Ball Super anime remake information that he had. And then he made another video saying that it seems like one of the announcements might have been dropped from the Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri panels. That honestly is probably not accurate. From what I understand, and from everybody that basically goes over the panels and Comic-Con panels and everything like that, this stuff is figured out months in advance. So it would be very, very, very unusual for them to just at the last minute pull an announcement like this. So I doubt they pulled an announcement, and we'll have to just wait and see if there are 2 projects or 1 project announced. Maybe they did pull an announcement because, you know, stranger things have happened, but who knows? And again, it would be a little bit unusual, but with the Dragon Ball rights issues and things like that, I could see it happening. Now, the issue is that Akio Ioku does not own the Dragon Ball rights to the animes and to the anime and the video games. He manages them for basically Toriyama's family at this point, because Toriyama's passed away. So it's not like Akio Ioku owns the rights, he just manages the rights to the anime and video games. So you could say that maybe there was a rights issue between him and Shueisha, but again, that's another thing that's just a little bit up in the air, and we'll have to wait and see. So again, you could consider this a leak because it is coming from one individual, and we have to basically give them the opportunity to prove them and prove their record. But the reason why I was kind of giving Sophia and Legeek a little bit of the benefit of the doubt is because of the fact that he basically had information about the Dragon Ball Super anime remake for several months before everybody else knew about it. And again, this was something that I saw from like the French community or the Portuguese-speaking community, is basically this Dragon Ball Super anime remake rumor going around before the leaks actually got out there. So it does appear that there may be more information than we are aware of, but again, it's a situation where we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out. But again, I decided to mention it because I thought, you know what, let's just give them a shot. Speaking of giving people a shot, here is another leaker that I thought had some very interesting things to say. Renan Roke. So Renan Roke was another person who had information on the Dragon Ball Super remake before it was much more publicly out there, and he was more teasing it than Sophia and Legeek was. And here he is with another scoop. He says, about the Dragon Ball Super manga, according to 2 leakers I spoke with, the January V-Jump or the Genkidamatsuri should bring information about this. Predicted return in February, March, or April 2026. I don't know if it would already be the Black Frieza saga. So obviously, by the time I'm recording this, the latest Dragon Ball V Jump, not the Dragon Ball V Jump, I should say the latest V Jump issue has come out for the month of January, and there was no real information about the Dragon Ball Super manga returning. So, with that being said, this is at this point a Genkidamatsuri leak. And again, I can't really say a rumor because rumors are basically the way I delineate from a rumor and a leak is a leak comes from a single source. A rumor is basically a report or something that is said that is spread across a community, but you can't really trace it back to a single origin source. So in this case, we have three people. We have Renan Roke, Sophian Geek, and Clifford. Now, Clifford, I would say, isn't necessarily an individual like Sophian Geek and Renan Roke. Clifford just seemed to have been in the right place at the right time. He's also the person who actually spoke to Victory Uchida at a Comic-Con, I think it was Japan Expo, where he confirmed that we would not be getting the Dragon Ball Super manga back in 2026, and that ended up turning out accurate. So it does appear that Clifford may have some information that is valuable, and again, benefit of the doubt, we'll see how this works out. And then again, I've already talked to you about Sophian Geek, and then Renan Roke. So Renan Roke and Sophian Geek are two content creators with very large followings who have a lot on the line if their information turns out false, because that would not be good for them or the Dragon Ball community, and it would be pretty serious. So the idea of the Dragon Ball Super manga being confirmed for the Genkidamatsuri event would not be out of the realm of possibility, again, because it is the Dragon Ball Super manga and Shueisha is involved with the event. They also have like the Dragon Ball Weekly News live panel that's going to be basically 20 minutes. They're normally about 5 minutes, so maybe 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. Sometimes they go longer whenever they have special guests, such as Toyotaro, for example. So the idea of them announcing the big return of the Dragon Ball Super manga at this event would not be crazy. We'll have to keep our eyes on it. Now, maybe there could be something a little bit off, and again, there could be some last-minute changes just because the rights issues are so difficult to work out, but people are tired, man. People are tired. So there you have it. That was your lowdown on the big Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri event. I know I did ramble at times, and I did rant a little bit, but I wanted to be as accurate as possible and get as much information out as possible because this is the last time I will be talking about the event leading up to the event. So I will be doing a little mini rant to close the video out, but that was basically everything you need to know about the event. Let's go and talk about some things let's basically talk about expectations and if this turns out negative. So I went over the leaks, I went over the rumors, and I also went over everything that is for sure confirmed. So let's talk about the possibility that we have this event, we get a brand new game, and it's a mobile game, and it's like 2D and low quality, and then we have this big 45-minute panel. Okay, it's just Masako Nozawa talking about how she likes to play Goku. Okay, well, we have another 30-minute panel, and then what if it's just them confirming that we're getting some new merchandise and a coloring book? Like, there is a lot of dooming in the Dragon Ball community, and it is honestly not unfounded. The aspect of, hey, this is a Dragon Ball event, but Dragon Ball fans have been suffering for so long at this point, we could like just get nothing, and we wouldn't be surprised at this point. Now, there are good reasons why we haven't been getting anything, and it's because of Akira Toriyama passing away and everything going on with the rights. But again, this issue with the copyright and everything like that, that was going on before Akira Toriyama passed away. If you need more information about that, I'll be leaving a link to a video. Basically, it's about did Akio Ioku destroy Dragon Ball? That's like the trial of Akio Ioku is the title, but it is not. It is basically, if you watch the video, you'll get a understanding of what the actual situation is, but it's not like a situation where Akio Ioku stole the rights or anything. He was basically granted the ability to control the franchise's anime and video game rights from Toriyama. So, and now his family allows him to do that. So it's not like Ioku just stole everything. So if this event ends up being disappointing, it could be easy to blame Ioku because he does handle the anime and video game rights, but it also depends on Shueisha controlling the manga rights. So you could blame it on Ioku, but you could also blame it on Shueisha. So I guess hype accordingly. Do not get too amped up about anything I talked about because, again, like I said, sometimes leaks are wrong. There are plenty of Marvel movie leaks that are wrong. There are plenty of rumors that ended up being false. Then sometimes there are leaks that are true. Do you guys remember whenever the Dragon Ball and Daima anime was being leaked before it was announced at New York Comic Con as Dragon Ball Magic? That was the big leak. Everybody was doubting it. People were saying, this is too crazy. There's no way this is real. And then it ended up being real. So that's why during the lead up to this event, I've been covering the Dragon Ball Super Remake leaks, or rumors, or however you want to say it. And I've been covering the more obscure leaks, and I've also been covering some leaks that seem like they could be credible. Again, I did not cover any of the leaks about the Dragon Ball Super Vegeta prequel movie or Dragon Ball Z Krillin movie or whatever. There's like tons of leaks going around out there that are obviously fake. Tons of rumors that are going around there that are obviously fake. But I succinctly chose a select couple of leaks that were by big content creators that have a chance to prove themselves and their track record. Same thing happened with Geekdom 101 whenever he was releasing a bunch of videos going over Dragon Ball Daima and the information he had on Dragon Ball Daima. And this is the thing that taught me the lesson in covering content creators, bigger content creators and information they may have. Because you, at that point back then, you could have said, don't cover Geekdom 101's leaks because it could be inaccurate, blah, blah, blah. And then it turned out to be extremely accurate. So there is a situation where larger content creators with a larger following that have more to lose may have accurate information, and they are leaking it for content. They're getting views, sure, but it's also accurate. And, you know, don't hate the player, hate the game, basically. And there's plenty of Marvel leakers that do the same thing. So there's always that aspect to this whole ordeal where you can easily, like, you can tell me, hey, don't cover leaks from a content creator, it could be false. But at the same time, it could be true. So it's very difficult in trying to figure out what to cover and what not. So I don't cover leaks from content creators that have like 200 subscribers or anything like that. In both cases of Ren and Rook and Sophia and Lee Geek, two content creators with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they get thousands of views. They have a lot on the line. And if this ends up being false, I'll basically never cover anything that they supposedly leak again. But on the flip side, Geekdom 101 accurately leaked a ton of information about Dragon Ball Daima, so now if he has any leaks, I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to consider it a legitimate leak because of the Dragon Ball Daima stuff that went on. So it's all about giving people a fair chance to prove themselves, and then if it ends up not being very accurate, then, you know, you win some, you lose some, you move on, and that's that. But the point was, for this video, is to give you a Dragon Ball Genkidamatsuri catch-up and basically rant and have fun and talk about everything. So, I talked about what I wanted, I talked about all the things we knew, all the leaks, all the rumors, and then I kind of gave you a realistic, keep your expectations low type of warning near the end of this video. It was basically a rant, but you get the picture. Anyways, guys, that will be it for this video. I know it was a little bit unconventional, but I realized over the weekend I've been making a lot of Dragon Ball news videos and covering bits and pieces of this event, but I did not have one big video going over everything. So here's your big video going over everything. I'm so excited. The next video I will be making on the channel will literally be uploaded the night of this event, going over everything that was announced on the big 3 stages. Hopefully it's exciting. If it's not exciting, I will definitely be letting you know, and we will be having a field day. And it'll also be a very bad day for Dragon Ball. This could literally destroy Dragon Ball forever. And I know that's a little hyperbolic, but realistically, if this is the big 40th anniversary event and they're hauling all these people out and it ends up being nothing, that would not be good for the brand at all. At all. It would be horrible. So, I guess we'll see. Anyways, guys, that will be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to keep up to date with all things Dragon Ball news and commentary. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace off.